Our final video is going to be on nucleic acids, and for this one there's going to be a little less information because I'm not actually going to ask you to run an organic compound test for this. So let's just take a look and go over the information that you guys need to know. Nucleic acids are made up of carbon, hydrogen, oxygen, but also nitrogen and phosphate. So these are the most complex monomers that we're going to have. You can see here that they actually have a sugar within them, so this is no different than, or very slightly different than the sugars that you were building in the lab. This is a 5-carbon sugar, so it is a little different than the glucose you built, but that's pretty complex for a monomer because we're also going to have a nitrogen base and a phosphate group. So these are going to be the most complex. The monomer is known as a nucleotide, and when we link them together, we have 3 different polymers. Now there's not a one generic name for the polymer here, but there are 3 different names you need to know. The polymers are DNA, RNA, and ATP. So at least one of those you should be familiar with because we've talked about DNA this year. DNA carries your genetic information. As we go through our year, you'll learn a lot more about RNA, but RNA works with the DNA to actually help make proteins or carry out the instructions that are in the DNA. And then finally, ATP is a molecule that we're going to talk about a lot this quarter as well that helps to store and release energy for the cell. So when we talk about photosynthesis and cellular respiration, we'll talk about those a lot as well. When you're reviewing, you need to go through, pause the video, make sure you understand the functions of the organic compounds. And that's something that I think you can go back and do on your own. But I also want you to think about the second question. What is the advantage for organic compounds to consist of polymers built from smaller monomers? Pause the video if you need to, and I'll walk you through the answer here. If you think about all of these different organic compounds, they've all been built from smaller units. The carbohydrates, we looked at the hexagon shapes, and we could link those together to make polysaccharides. The proteins kind of look like plus signs because we had that carbon in the middle with the 4 different things bonded around, and we could link those amino acids together to make polypeptides. And the nucleic acids, while they were a little more complex, had the sugar, the nitrogen base, and the phosphate group. And those nucleotides could be linked together to make DNA or RNA or protein. And so the body really only needs to be able to make 1, 2, 3 different structures and assemble them in multiple different ways to get almost an unlimited number of molecules. Your entire body is based on these 4 things. That way your body doesn't have to have the instructions for 1,000 different things, but it only has to have the instructions for a few monomers that it can link together in multiple ways to make the many polymers that your body needs to function. Here's another great review. The answer key for this is actually in the back of your textbook. You can go through and fill it out and then use the textbook to see how you did.